Look at those hands, quicker than Tyson Fury. That fight was over faster than you could even blink, but we've got baseball this early in the morning for you. Out west is Eric Lindquist and Jordan, who's producing, and I am here up at a normal hour. Everybody else is exhausted, and they look it. If you could see Jordan, he looks even more tired than Eric right now. But that's what we do here at Awesemo. We get up for you to prepare you for the day and make you some money. Isn't that right, Lindquist? Like, look at this. You got the hat on backwards. You didn't even put the eye stuff on that you normally do to remove those big bags that you have.
Shut up. I've never once done such things. And again, yes, I did act. Yes, I did wear man makeup once in a while. It's part of the gig. You know this. I mean, you were on TV forever. You know what you have to do.
God willing.
Yeah, it's just you just get the little brush up. You're set to go. The thing that's brutal about this morning is just like the sun apparently at 6 a.m. is just beating straight directly into this room. And so I was like, oh, I'll put the shades up. But they're just like crappy little blinds that I can't really do anything about. So here we are. Good morning. Let's talk of infinity baseball games.
I love it. We've got 50 games to talk about today. We're going to jam through them in about, 65 minutes or so. And here's what I would add to that. We have now found out that how long have you been in this house, by the way?
It's an apartment. Yeah, I've been here for 4 years.
4 years.
Just over 4 years.
4 years. I don't know if anybody else caught that. I don't know if Jordan caught that, but this is the earliest Eric Lindquist has ever been up in his apartment because he didn't know about the sun before today.
No. It has to do with the time of year. During NFL, I've been up earlier because I did a 7 a.m. show a couple of times, and you would go through tape where you would watch stuff 5:30, 5 a.m. or something. And we also have a dog that just has no sense of time or anything like that. But for the most part, this is the earliest morning I've had in quite a while where it was just like, oh, let's get going for baseball. And so not many Aprils that I have it going, but usually it'll still be dark come, what would that be, September?
You're in the fall at 7 o'clock Eastern time. It's definitely going to, nowhere on the planet outside of Fairbanks, Alaska, is it going to be light at 4 a.m.
So that's not a real place.
You ever see that movie, by the way, with Al Pacino and Robin Williams up there in Fairbanks? It's Insomnia is the movie.
Oh, okay. I thought we were going to say Iditarod Trail and I was going to be in.
No.
For that.
Not Iditarod. I apologize.
Oh, okay.
That's your homework. Awesome. All right. We're going to talk baseball right now, but you go watch Insomnia. And if you don't like it, I'll pay you whatever Awesemo pays you for 2 hours. I'll pay you for the 2 hours you sat down and watched that movie. If you don't like it, deal?
Deal. Booked. Right. Action booked.
Here we go, man. All right. We're in Detroit, and we've got a bunch of games to dive into here. So this is all on Eric. Eric's pacing. Don't blame me if we go late. Now, we have a hard out, all right, at 10:55 a.m. Eastern time.
No pressure.
Colorado on the road in Detroit. Decent projection run total there for Detroit. But let's start with Colorado and kind of look at this pitching matchup and see how you're attacking it. And again, also in the backdrop, as we go through each and every game, you're going to look at this with other games, I'm sure, that you have more interest, that you may be heavy favoring more towards the field with another pitcher or four, whoever it may be. So we know we have to get through 60 games. Let's just look at Colorado, Detroit first.
Yeah, so generally whenever the Rockies are outside of Coors Field, one of the best ballparks in terms of scoring, in terms of run opportunity, you kind of want to target them because this just isn't that good of a baseball team top to bottom in terms of lineup. Anybody can really go out to Coors Field and be successful. But then you see stuff like yesterday, Screwball, our boy, 13-0, absolutely skunking in the first game. And then Colorado wins the second half of it. That was sad times. But basically, Detroit outscored them 15-3 on the day. Going into this one as well, Tyler Alexander from the left side, he was a pretty well-regarded prospect back in the mid-2000s for the Tigers. It never really translated. 20% K percentage for his career, 19.3% last season, 4.3 expected ERA. He's just a run-of-the-mill guy. But anytime that you're going to be facing this Colorado offense outside of Coors, you're going to have a little bit more interest. He only has a 7.3% top two pitcher percentage, but he's completely unowned at 1%. So it's not the weirdest thing in the entire world to say, oh, I want to get a share or two of this team. It's only a 9-game slate for the early slate for the maiden iteration of this early slate. So I'm okay getting to a couple shares of Alexander. My God, it's not that enticing at all.
Yeah, I mean, cool, though, on the other hand, right? He's cheaper. It's still the same scenario. You even have a little more value because he's just by a pinch higher projected top 2 pitcher. You're also saving nearly $2,000 on DraftKings.
Yeah, Chad Kuhl pissed me off because it's not very often that I go overweight on a Coors offense. But the day he was pitching, I was overweight on the Phillies. There was a lot of positive leverage, yada, yada, yada. What did he do? He mowed them down like they were standing still. It was not enjoyable. So Chad Kuhl, I'm upset, but here we go. Let's just go right back to the well. I like the Tigers offense. I think it's a team that isn't going to ever really be all that popular. There's a little bit of negative leverage to go there actually today. Second most negatively leveraged team, but I definitely want to have shares. It's pretty simple to know which guys I want to get from the other side of this. Maybe not full stack on FanDuel, making some 4-mans. I don't think it's that hard to get different, but we're seeing Robbie Grossman with a lot of ownership at the top. He had a pretty quietly good year last season. Same thing, Austin Meadows coming here from Tampa Bay. Top of that lineup looks really, really good. We'll see where Akila Baddoo. I don't think we've gotten that lineup here yet. I saw the Colorado came in while we were talking about it, but I do want to have some bats going up against Kuhl. This is just not a good pitcher.
Are you using any of these guys at all? Assuming you're building 150 or more on FanDuel, are you getting to either of these pitchers?
Yeah, I said I'm going to get to a little bit of Tyler Alexander.
Okay, I thought it was DK. I'm sorry.
Yeah, Chad Kuhl right now, 260 expected slugging, but still a 40% hard hit percentage, still 12.8% walk rate. He has definitely some questions, that's for sure, but he's 5,700. He's super, super cheap, and he's super unowned. Not somebody to go nuts with whatsoever. I mean, I doubt I get to even 5-6% of some of these guys, but I will definitely have shares. They're cheap on the board, and there's one guy at 5K that's going to be crazy popular on this slate, or maybe not crazy popular, but he's definitely going to be the guy in the 5K range who gets relied on. And it wouldn't completely shock me if Chad Kuhl against a bad Detroit offense, or on the other side of this one, you have Tyler Alexander if he went nuts against a Colorado team outside of Coors.
All right, let's move on then. Boston, Tampa here, and right there at the top, as far as our guy that is projected to be one of the top, including the number 1 pitcher, is Shane McClanahan. And that's, with Alex's projections here, catching a ton of ownership on DK, not the highest. That's going to be Cole, who we'll talk about in a little bit. And then, of course, you have Rich Hill on the complete opposite end of it, which doesn't look like it's meant to be a longer start there. So you really have 2 guys on the opposite end of where Alex has projections, Eric, but the cost, I mean, you're really not saving much at all by going to Rich Hill with all of that risk. So I don't know if it's more just taking advantage of McClanahan, that 8,700 number, which looks pretty workable according to a bunch of these other like 8,500 plus spend up options you'd have.
Yeah, that's a good point. I mean, it's a misprice. It's not a guy who should ever be 8,700. He's got 7, 8, 9 strikeouts his first 3 outings. It was against Baltimore, Oakland, and Chicago. So not exactly a murderer's row to start off his season, but he gets a Boston lineup that at the same time that they're going to be potent, they're also going to have strikeouts. And this guy's a stud. 27.3% K percentage last season, a 4.24 xWOBA is a little bit concerning over a larger sample. He has the ability to get hard hit, 45.7% last season, but 2.42 expected ERA in the early going of this season, upper 90s fastball, throws in that curve slider mix that just he just gets some swings and misses. He just looks like he's going to be a stud for years and years to come. 25 years old. I mean, this is a misprice for the situation. I think a little bit of a price decrease just because you're going up against a very good offense on the other side. But just because it's a good offense doesn't mean there aren't strikeouts to be had.
Are you getting to field about 45%? What we have on DK, you actually have now, granted, it's going to be a little different on FanDuel, but you actually have a little more workability with his leverage only because you're paying up, which probably makes more sense at 9,500 on FanDuel.
Yeah, it's 9,500 FanDuel is still not that big of an issue. I mean, this is a misprice on a pitcher with tremendous upside, the best K stuff on the slate if you take Garrett Cole out of the mix, which is just hilarious at this point in time that we're viewing Garrett Cole like this. We'll get to him. Pretty interesting deep dive on him, but mid 80s pitches, you're basically predicting. He got up to 85 in his second start, 80 last time out. If you're looking at 85, even maybe 90 pitches for McClanahan at 8,700 with the K stuff, it's just impossible not to have a lot of interest there.
You mentioned, though, that offense and Boston with the cost, and that's a factor. I get it. Not much ownership at all that we have projected really at all on DK. And on top of that, still a positively leveraged stack. Now, again, you're going to get some positive leverage with Tampa as well, but Boston, I think, stands out because if you are countering the field going to a lot of McClanahan, this is a positive leverage stack where you can really take advantage of that.
Yeah, just because, like I said, you have a lot of strikeouts. Adding Trevor Story, he's K'ing at the highest rate on the team, nearly 30%. You have Christian Vasquez, who, catcher 27%, Xander Bogaerts 25.9%. Bobby Dahlbeck struck out a lot last year, is going to strike out a lot this year. He's got immense power. I mean, it's just a boom bust type offense. You get Devers and Verdugo and Kike. Kike is not going to strike out that much either, but everybody else here, there's definitely going to be Ks available at the same time that there's going to be a lot of hard hit balls. But Trevor Story is off to an abysmal start, just a 27.6% hard hit percentage in the early going and a 282 expected slugging. Not great for what you're paying for there in Trevor Story. So looking like this lineup, it's potent. And there's guys like Dahlbeck, who I think I'll always be over the field on slightly. Devers from the left side specifically, even up against the lefty, I don't really have a whole lot of concern going to him. I mean, this is just such a good spot here for this entire offense to be completely unowned and to get positive leverage. It feels like one of those things. It's just been, we repeatedly talk about on these shows. You get one of the best offenses in baseball, and that's what the Red Sox are projected to be here long term, and you get zero ownership. You have to have some interest.
It's not to that extent, but maybe the poor man's version of what you laid out as Tampa in this slate here.
Yeah, I mean, Rich Hill's not nearly as good as Shane McClanahan at this point in his career. So there you go. Just slightly different outlooks on pitchers. I mean, Rich Hill, just closing the loop on him quick. It's pretty simple. 5.8% top two pitcher percentage. He had around 4% ownership. I'd rather go to about everybody else in the 7K range. Yeah. We talked about those two cheapies. They're projected to finish as top two pitchers more often. Brubaker's a guy I feel like I'd still play over the field on. I don't like Cool, but I think I'd rather take that shot for 1,800 less. Rich Hill, I believe the oldest player in baseball. Him and Pujols 1-2 in some capacity, but this is not going to be a successful season for one Rich Hill. And you get left on left to Brandon Lau. I don't really care. He'll be in the middle of that order. He generally leads off against righties. He's batting fifth, more than likely against lefties. Wander Franco is an absolute beast. I will say I do like the outlook of this team more when you get Ji-Man Choi and a lot of the left side going up against righties here. But even Harold Ramirez is all right. Mike Zunino, tons of power, and it's going to come to fruition sooner rather than later. Even at 4K, I think I'll have some interest there. So a lot of Tampa Bay bats that I do have interest in.
I'm not sure if that's going to be the same here with Cleveland. We will talk about Garrett Cole, both on the mound and in relation to this Cleveland offense, or maybe lack thereof. The only team that we have projected with a run total under 3 today at Yankee Stadium. I had to check the weather, make sure everything was good up there. Seems fine on the East Coast here, but
wind blowing in 10 miles an hour.
What's that?
Wind's blowing in 10 miles an hour.
10 miles per hour. Aaron Judge can hit through that. That's fine. Now, looking at this, though, where would you like to start with Garrett Cole and the value there? One of the highest owned and projected guys that we have, especially on FanDuel, his ownership is through the roof, or victimizing that Cleveland stack and maybe taking advantage of some of the field not really getting to them.
I have to believe that the field is seeing what I'm seeing in terms of Garrett Cole regression, post-sticky stuff. And you got to have a little bit of interest in Cleveland bats. I'm not going to get carried away. I know there's a lot of people that are very adamant that Garrett Cole is just going to be broken forever. And I don't think that that's necessarily always what it is. I mean, it's early in the season. You didn't have much of a spring training. It's been a wonky 2 years. I'm willing to say that there's enough things where it's like Garrett Cole could still find it. He found it at times last season, even post sticky stuff. But on the whole, I think you are looking at a very, very substantially worse pitcher than what you saw over the course of, for sure, the 2019 and 2020 seasons pre-Yankees. And Garrett Cole, I think you just have to have some interest in stacking up against with some of his advanced metrics. I mean, he's giving up a 53.3% hard hit percentage through a few starts. This is by far his worst number that he's had in his major league career, if the number maintains. A 5.18 expected ERA, giving up not as hard of contact as you would expect in some of these spots, but for the most part, 379 x WOBA. You've got a 375 WOBA on the whole as well. He's just a run-of-the-mill pitcher at the moment, 24% K percentage. Generally with Garrett Cole, what you're doing is, with the absolute stud and ace on a slate, you're just hoping that you get those strikeouts to outweigh everything. But you get a guy like Kwan at the top of this lineup. This Cleveland lineup, while I don't expect them to be good long-term, they make a lot more contact when you have like Ernie Clement, Miles Straw, Jose Ramirez never has struck out. Stephen Kwan, though, this guy is only striking out at a 10.9% clip. There aren't enough strikeouts here for a guy that has regressing stuff for me to want to go nuts on him. So I understand that he's going to be very, very popular. And it's not like we have the craziest, most elite pitching options. I mean, McClanahan, as much as I love him, is facing a Boston offense that could totally torch him. We have Adam Wainwright as the next guy on the list. So yes, Garrett Cole, if he goes back to any sort of mid 2000s form or late 2000s form, you have an absolute lawnmower. The guy's going to be blowing down any lineup. It doesn't matter if it's the Guardians or a team that strikes out a lot like Texas. But for the most part, I do not want to get to 57.6% of him or 50% of him. Yeah. I refuse.
It's even, I mean, it's worse on DK clearly, but a 57.6 on DK, 49.5 by 30 points higher owned in FanDuel than McClanahan at 19.7. And, here's the crazy thing to back up your point, Eric, is the top stack projection we have for Cleveland. Granted, if you look at this just on the page, you're going to see Cleveland all the way on the bottom, but 6 points separates St. Louis, which is number 2, from Cleveland, which is second to last. I get it. It's 9 games, but that's not a ton right there. That's not 50 or so where there's this wide gap. I feel like you're already getting a step up on the majority of the field if Cleveland just shows up.
Yeah.
Like if you get 4 runs from Cleveland, your chances are that you've probably taken out a lot of the field because Cole's going to be on the hook for that.
Yeah, for me, it's so strange. You go through some of the pitches from Cole with the cutter that has very little vertical movement compared to what it's had in previous seasons, and a lot of his off-speed offerings. I mean, the curveball is still moving at an elite rate this season, and it's just not generating swings and misses in the same way. And he's just running into a lot of problems every single time out. I mean, a 14% walk rate, that's nowhere close to what he's had for a career. So if you can start locating some of these pitches, maybe he can be much more potent, and you want to have, the near 50% of him. But I mean, I'm with you. I'm just thinking about this in terms of tournaments. I see a 50% owned pitcher that's had some very, very pronounced struggles here in the early going of this season. And it's hard not to have stack interest, especially when nobody's stacking up the team on the other side. So would it surprise me if Garrett Cole just found 10 strikeouts out of the middle of nowhere here, just because some of his stuff still looks like it should be there? Still upper 90s fastball, still has the ability to generate some vertical movement. The curveball is moving even in this limited sample. It's just, if you're not locating it in the zone and you're walking 14% of guys, nobody's going to be chasing that.
On the other side of this, are you doing anything? I mean, look, the Yankees stack is definitely attackable here. I understand that there's going to be some cost with it, but you've got a positive leverage stack that's kind of right there in the middle.
Yeah, it's a team that whenever they're positively leveraged, you're going to see me come over the field on. It's too good of a lineup top to bottom. They're starting to get their footing. It's going to be a team just routinely that when you see them under like Toronto, like Boston, anything like this, you get a 9-game slate and you have an offense going up against Aaron Civale. I'm pretty confident that I'm going to be having a lot of interest.
Yes. Now, do you add that type of enunciation for every single ethnic last name, or was it
absolutely not? It just it felt right in the moment. Okay.
Okay. Just curious.
Can we have fun? I was just Aaron Savale.
Savale. Yeah. Okay.
Fun. Did you enjoy it? It felt nice, didn't it?
It did. That's why I said it. It felt really good. I wasn't chastising you. I was just asking a question. Jeez, are questions out now on this show?
No, I just was answering your question.
Eric, let's go to the next stack.
That wasn't very nice.
I'm sorry.
I get it. I get it.
Right.
We just got the. Let me take a look at this.
Yeah,
we do have Torres batting up 5th, Hicks 6th. All right. Kiner Falefa, I never play. Gallo is batting 7th today. That's not as ideal, but whatever. There's O'Donnellson. There's somebody missing. Stanton is not in the lineup. There we go. That just came through.
Well, that's going to change a little bit.
But I mean, you also take out, he was 4,900 and you end up inserting, Aaron Hicks not leading off is less ideal as well. DJ LeMahieu leading off today. They kind of are going back to that. That's kind of fascinating. He had been further back in the lineup. I think he led off yesterday. I believe he did, but I'm looking at this team as one that you still want to have some interest in. And Anthony Rizzo's up there, very, very expensive, 5,300, but a lefty against righty. Just give me some Anthony Rizzo in my life. Joey Gallo as well, 3,400, so cheap, batting 7th. But yeah, no, Stanton in that lineup isn't ideal.
So we're going to move to Atlanta here, but real quick, I just want to clarify this on the chat. Jordan said Eric and I were up at 5 prepping. You better hit that like button. Now, granted, nobody's going to argue with that second part of the statement, which is your ass out there better hit that like button. It's 10:10 on the East. It's 7:10 on the West. If you haven't hit the like button, please, for Lindquist and Jordan's sake, my goodness. Now, he also said you guys were up at 5. I just want clarification. Is that 5 a.m. Eastern time or 5 a.m. Western time?
Western. It's our 5 a.m. I wasn't up till 5:30, but I'm not going to.
Jordan was up at 5 a.m.
Jordan was
East Coast time.
Jordan's a harder worker. Jordan's a better person. Jordan's more attractive. Jordan's all of these things.
Yeah, let's keep it moving on that note. Miami projected run total just over 4 here in the ATL. And let's look here. We'll start with pitchers, of course. And we've got Elder at that 5K range. This is your pay down option, if you will, that everybody you mentioned is getting to. And then on the flip side, we have Jesus Luzardo, who is coming in at a little bit more, but not really super high projected. And nobody's really getting to him either. So let's start on the road. Let's start with Luzardo and see what you're working with. Really, if anything, maybe that cost or the matchup is too much of a deterrent for you.
If his current ownership is correct, I'm going to have way, way, way too much of Jesus Luzardo. This guy he's
at the bottom projected, by the way.
Yeah, he was supposed to be it for Oakland. It didn't come to fruition. And now I just think he's going to be a guy that if he has the strikeout stuff that we've seen in the early going, 37.5% K percentage, I expect regression, obviously, off of that number. He's around a 24.4% K percentage guy for his career. But my God, is it enticing to get to somebody with this kind of strikeout ability that he's displayed early this season, and to be able to get him at like 2% rostership. I think Atlanta, they got all of their prices slashed when they faced Walker Buehler, and now they've been super cheap still in the aftermath of that. I don't know why. I don't know what DraftKings is doing here, having Travis d'Arnaud be a 25% catcher that you're fading every single slate at like 2,500. You have guys like Adam Duvall, 2,400. You have all of these super, super cheap bats. Dansby Swanson, 2,400. Our CFE's in the line of 2,300. And then Albies is 5K, which is a little bit too cheap for him. And Marcell Ozuna is the most mispriced out of everybody at 3,300. Just stupid pricing on this side. So I think it's an Atlanta offense that's just been routinely popular because of those prices. They're the most negatively leveraged team to get to. They're the second top value, I guess, right behind Cincinnati, which is weird. We'll get to that spot. But I feel pretty confident that if Jesus Luzardo is going to go completely overlooked in regards of stat, because everybody wants to play Atlanta bats, I will be well over the field on him. 12.6%, or is it 12.2% top 2 pitcher percentage and just 2% ownership? I don't think he'll be 2%. He's shown too much stuff in the early going to have literally 2% ownership, but maybe. And if that's going to be the case, I'm going to have an uncomfortable amount of him.
Is that going to be all right? So let me ask you this then, in relation to how overweight you're going to be to Luzardo, assuming that it's going to stay in that range. Where are you to Bryce Elder, who is everybody's favorite paydown option today?
Oh, the elder statesman?
Yes.
I like the elder statesman.
Is there a better Larry Elder? Like who's an all-time elder here?
I don't know. You on this show?
No, I'm not an elder statesman here, right?
Well, amongst the three of us, perhaps. I mean,
I don't have
shout out EMAC 2024.
Compared to
you have to be 75 years old to be president nowadays, right?
I don't know. I couldn't tell you. Who are the last three guys? I couldn't even tell you.
Yeah, they're not young, is what I'm getting at. But yeah,
I vote for American Idol, not the president. What's wrong with you?
85 and 89 pitches for Bryce Elder.
Yes.
I think that you were paying attention to pitch count. It's less relevant now than it was the first week of the season because it seems like most guys are getting to the opportunity to get to around 90 pitches now, and that's what we're going to see for Lee Elder. He is 5K against a Miami offense. I can really stop there, and I'm probably going to have some kind of interest as long as, they're somewhat serviceable. 15.6% K percentage and 11.1% walk rate. Not the best of starts or opportunities. You look at him and look at him as just kind of a cheap option to get to. Ground ball rate, 46.7%. I'm not really that enamored with everything there, but he had a 9.82 K per nine over the course of 2021 at AAA. And somebody has that kind of stuff. He had a 4.06 xFIP there, 3.25 FIP, 2.21 ERA in 2021 in those 7 games he started. So I feel pretty confident that he had some good stuff at AAA. He actually improved off of some of his numbers from AA. And I feel that can translate at the major league level against a Miami offense that is not completely up to par here yet. Yes, apparently Jazz Chisholm is God, so you're fading that. You have Jorge Soler that is phenomenal towards the tail end of last year and one of the reasons Atlanta won a World Series. And Avisal Garcia is one of my favorite, most underrated hitters in all of baseball, but it's a spot that I think that I'm still going to be siding more on the Elder side. However, it is 75 degrees, decent enough hitting conditions. You get these early afternoon baseball games here on the East Coast, and you don't run into all of the 50-degree weather, 55-degree weather we've had of late. So decent enough hitting conditions, but Elder, I think, is decent enough that he's the punt you want to get to at 5K.
Yeah, Atlanta is heavily negatively leveraged right now, nearly a 4-point negative score, the highest on the board. By the way, I love that you mistakenly called him Lee Elder of all people, too.
Oh, well, I mean, that's the golf.
Exactly. He is the legend.
I'm the only person who would do that probably on Earth.
That's what I love about you, though, too, is because, I bring up some weird talk show host, and you go right to the top Elder of all time, which is Lee Elder. And that's your wheelhouse, golf. Atlanta, what are you doing here? I don't know if you can break this down. I don't know if you could attack this from a 2 or 3 man stack to kind of mitigate that leverage because you're still dealing with some top heavy guys. So is Atlanta at a -4 leverage score? Miami is positive. So we just end this game kind of looking at the bats and both scores kind of being different here.
Yeah, it's very, very different DraftKings to FanDuel for me, just because you get these ridiculous prices on DK and you've got some uncomfortable fades there on FanDuel. I mean, their prices are somehow more expensive. Like Duvall's 3,100, Ozuna is up to 3,200. I think you can get a little bit of opportunity to go and roster them there, but on DK, they're going to be crazy popular. And we've seen this. They were chalky on like a 12 game or 13 game slate against Walker Buehler because of their pricing. They're for damn sure going to be popular going up against Jesus Luzardo. And the hard contact that he can give up. So Ozzy Albies 5K, that's a broken tag, which is as weird as that is to say. Marcell Ozuna 3,300 and Duvall 2,400, both projected for north of 13%. I'd be surprised if they weren't more popular than that. So we've seen them be more popular. They've been a very chalky team in recent days, and man, they burned me yesterday. I had just about none of them, and they had a decent enough outing here, but up and down the lineup, I will say, I think the one guy that I've always just disregarded left on left for is Matt Olson. He's got power no matter what, and batting second, if he's going to be sub 10%, I think he makes for a fun one-off option.
Logan Webb at 10K on DK, projected for a decent finish, kind of there in the middle, but the value is kind of gone because he's getting some ownership that kind of balances that out. But at 10K, I mean, look, we talked about Garrett Cole and the issues there at 10-4. So 10K on DK, we've talked about a couple of other options that might be better, especially if you're looking at cheaper options. But there is a little bit of maneuverability here because Logan Webb is like the 6th projected owned pitcher on this slate, not necessarily 2 or 3.
Yeah, Logan Webb is just kind of a stud, but this is kind of an interesting spot where he's 10K and depends on how you're kind of going about building your stacks. It feels like some of the value stacks are pretty obvious. We just talked about Atlanta. I think a lot of people are going to get there. It seems as though people are going to get to Cincinnati. I'm not sure. We'll kind of get to that. I think that's one of the more interesting spots. But for sure, I think Minnesota is a team that now has some more expensive bats. You get Buxton back in the lineup. There's guys that I want to get to individually from there. And then, of course, the Yankees, a team that I want to get to that is pretty expensive as well. How many times can you really get up to 10K Logan Webb here in the early going? I'm not sure. I'm going to run a 150 here in a second just because I want to have a little bit better idea. But the K percentage has shown some massive regression here in the early going, 15.5%, coming off of 26.5% in 2021. So you're paying quite a bit for a guy that I don't like his strikeout stuff nearly as much as I like McClanahan. And I expect McClanahan to be the better pitcher between the two going forward. But he still had really good numbers, 3.51 xERA, a 263 WOBA. I think that there's a number of ways that I still think I want to mix in some Logan Webb. He's got some positive leverage rostering him, but 10K is going to be hard to land on for me when you get guys. I mean, think about it this way. Luzardo, as risky as he is, has better top 2 pitcher percentage odds than Logan Webb. I'm going to probably land there more than I'm going to land Logan Webb.
Cheaper too. Yeah, you're right.
Yep.
No, it makes sense. Why? I don't know what you can do with Washington on either side, mainly on the bat side, Eric, because yes, they are right there at the bottom from projections. They aren't getting really any ownership, but unlike with the Yankees and Garrett Cole, you're not really countering a chunk of the field by going up against Logan Webb. So I don't know if it's even worth that risk to get to Washington stacks a lot today, if at all.
It's like you've gotten good at this. It's like
I listen to you, man.
God, I would do that more often.
I could win.
Oh, okay. Well, we got to fix that part. It was nice.
It sounds good on the show. I can regurgitate what you tell me in my own words. Yes, I've gotten to that point.
Oh, man. It's all right. I literally got 10th, 8th, and something else this week, and I lost money in MLB. So it's one of those things where you got to convert and get first. It's so hard to be completely perfect. And one of the nice things about baseball is you don't always have to be perfect. You can have zeros and win tournaments. I think that always makes baseball really, really fun in that regards for DFS purposes. But you have to find ways to get the guys who have double dongs in your stack, or you can kind of isolate the one bat. And I think with Washington, it's very easy to look at this team and know I'm not going to stack them out without Soto. I'm not going to stack them up without Nelson Cruz. I think it's pretty straightforward that if they have a big day against Logan Webb, that would be the way to do it. But as you said, I find him to be I find them to be unnecessary on this slate to get to in any kind of bulk. Might have a couple shares here and there of individual hitters, specifically Soto always garners attention as he should. But he's not popular enough. Logan Webb is. You're just finding it very difficult to get leverage there. Whereas I think it's pretty easy to find leverage on this board when we have Garrett Cole as popular as he is. Even Adam Wainwright with Cincinnati on the other side, I have a lot of interest going that direction for some value. So I find it tough to believe that I'm going to be full 5-man stacking Washington that frequently.
Well, you mentioned Wainwright. That's a nice little transition here into our next game.
I have that in me. I will say San Francisco on the other side is just a team that I always end up rostering a lot more than I should, but they just have so much power. And I believe on the mound today, you're going to have Jonah Don, and I've rostered him a little bit more than I probably should have in some of these spots. It's been okay. He's a young pitcher with, mid-90s fastball, but an 8.59 expected ERA. I look at San Francisco as a team that you just want to get to some shares of. They're going to be very popular, negatively leveraged. Looks like they're going to be the most popular stack on this slate. So it's pretty important talking point. But guys like Mikey Stremski, he's still hitting the ball really, really hard. Jock Peterson at 3,300, if he's going to be around 10%, I'm going to have a lot of him as a one-off. You just have a lot of power in the middle of that lineup. More so now than you've had in years previous. Last year, obviously, there was a lot of power, but Brandon Belt, 5,400, he's getting around 16% ownership. That's a lot of ownership to be looking at there. Brandon Crawford there, projected to be batting 5th, 13.6%. I'm more inclined to try to take some one-off shots and not go crazy full 5-man stacking, but Adon's been giving up way too much hard contact not to have interest stacking up against him.
All right, brother. We'll keep it moving here. We've got 32 minutes left, 10 games by my count. So and this is what we'll do. If there's nothing with a pitcher, with a stack, with a one-off, then we'll keep it moving. I'll defer to you here. Okay.
I will fly. I know.
I don't want you
hard out at 8. Hard out at 8. Is that what it is, Jordan? No, what
55.
Is it?
It's 7:55 your time.
55. Yeah. All right.
Yeah.
I will be aware of it. And if I'm just like pass, we can just do that.
No. Because we don't want to run into Josh's time. That's the thing. I think Lofty will be okay with it, but I don't trust Josh not getting upset. And he's not going to get upset at you. He's going to get upset at me.
Good.
Yeah, of course that's good. That's what you do. You throw people under the bus. Let's go Adam Wainwright. Like Goran Dragic. Adam Wainwright. I love that face.
Dragic.
No. It's just about throwing under the bus.
Okay.
Adam Wainwright, you said you like him. 9,600 though. But here's the thing. If you were looking at any type of softer cost for Webb, this now becomes a little more interesting. Yeah, 400, I get it. But the numbers will stand out a little bit more. You also have, we're going to talk about a couple of other guys here, and Giolito and Garcia. So you also have that kind of mid-range of 9,000 to 9,600 for these pay-up options. Wainwright, though, you said you like, and the numbers are going to support you getting to him.
Yeah, I like him on this slate. I don't know how I feel about him going forward. I mean, this is what, 17th big league season. He's now in his early going here at a 27.9% K percentage. That is just not in line with his career number of 20%. He's never had a season over 22.1% K percentage. So let's just all pump the brakes and expect a little bit of regression there. But does it hurt to see that he's been this good early on, and having a dead ball for all intents and purposes is a decent enough thing for some of these older pitchers where he's kind of seen everything. And at this point in time, I feel as though he's just going to be a good pitcher. I mean, he's given up a 13.3% barrel percentage early on, but if the ball's not flying, he's just not going to get in that much trouble. He's a safe option, I think. That's kind of how I've always viewed Adam Wainwright, as somebody that could just be a steady Eddie. But I will say in Great American Ballpark, it's just, I think I'd prefer to get to a lot more of the Cincinnati side. They do stand out as the top value on DraftKings right now. They're going a little bit overowned, but I find it hard to believe that I'm going to be rostering a ton of McClanahan or Logan Webb type lineups and not be landing on some Cincinnati stacks. So Wainwright, I definitely think he stands out. He's the third most frequently top 2 pitcher on this slate, 16.6% in the top pitchers tool. But that's like 0.2% away from a Bryce Elder. Right. That's 4% away from Jesus Luzardo. So the disparity isn't really there. He's garnering attention. He's just fine to land on at 9,600, but I do prefer getting myself to a little bit further down the board in Shane McClanahan, not by a considerable margin is what I mean.
So I don't know how much you're getting to the St. Louis stack, and we can kind of combine these answers here, but Lodolo is going to offer a ton of value on the board right now, especially at that number, 6K. I mean, we have him on FanDuel. I'm looking here on FanDuel. Yeah. And he's the 5th highest projected pitcher. So whatever site you're looking at here, there's an opportunity, clearly 6K on FanDuel or 6,700 on DK to roster this guy and really gain some value.
Yeah, he's a stud. I mean, he was the top 10 pick 2019 out of TCU. I know he pitched there. Shout out Horned Frogs. But
there you go.
25.5% K percentage now early on here. Looks like he's decent enough. Limits hard contact to an extreme extent right now. 21.4%. Only 2 barrels on him in his limited sample size. So this is a guy who has an 8 ERA, but a 3.78 expected ERA. I think he's going to be pretty darn good. And, you know, you just talked about it. 12.6% top 2 pitcher percentage, only 7.4% ownership. Yes, it's a tough ballpark. It's a team that has a lot of righties you should be freaked out about. But I feel pretty confident in saying that he's a guy that you want to play way over that 7.6% number.
Yeah, and I don't know. The Cincinnati team is so cheap. They're not projected to score a lot of runs. It's a negatively leveraged stack. So as much as we looked at from St. Louis standpoint, where you are going to have a top projected stack and it's positively leveraged, I don't know what you're going to get by racing to Cincinnati as a stack. Maybe they're better, cheaper 1 or 2 offs.
Yeah, Cincinnati, I think makes a pretty decent stack here up against Wainwright, just because he's going to be actually more popular than you would think. North of 15% ownership. And Tyler Naquin, I mean, everybody's so cheap. You don't have a single batter in this lineup over 3,300 on DraftKings. And, Joey Votto sticks out as somebody that I want to play a lot of if he's going to be 7.6%. Naquin is going to be the most popular guy, leading off 2,900 there. Kyle Farmer batting second. Nick Senzel. I expect some better stuff, hopefully, out of him going forward. And Colin Moran up against any righty, I feel pretty confident rostering it at pretty much non-existent ownership, sub 5%. So I have a lot more interested. And don't forget Tommy Pham, who's been the best hitter in this lineup in the early going. I feel all right about rostering them up above expectation. And again, there's some slight negative leverage there for sure, but top value by a landslide, nearly 25% of the time that they're going to work out for you in that regard. So I think that there's some better opportunity rostering them. Hard to believe that I'm not going to be playing Logan Webb, Garrett Cole, Shane McClanahan. Again, I'm not full fading Garrett Cole. Let's be serious about that. Guy's 50%. If the strikeout stuff just miraculously shows back up and he can, find the zone would be great. Then I think he can have some of those put away pitches matter, but not a team that strikes out a lot here in Cleveland. And I'm going to still get to some where it's Garrett Cole, McClanahan, Cincinnati 5, man. I think that that's going to be a lineup I probably land on a little bit.
All right, so we can keep it moving then. And
yeah, St. Louis. On the other side, St. Louis. I talked about the righties. As good as Lodolo has been, I mean, obviously 8 ERA. There's going to be opportunities for some of these guys. You get Tyler O'Neill, even Harrison Bader batting ninth. I don't completely remove from consideration. So a nice wraparound stack opportunity. You have to pick between Pujols and Goldschmidt. Let's be serious. I'm taking Goldschmidt every single time. But just saying Arenado at the hot corner, 5,900, sub 10%. My God, I might have a lot of him as a one-off.
All right, so from there we go to Houston and Toronto in town. And I don't know how much you're going to attack the mound here. Let's start with both pitchers, and then we can kind of move to the stacks here.
Let's do it. Hang on 1 second. I'm going to check because he keeps asking me questions about the FanDuel side of it. And I've been trying to, mix in some FanDuel. I'm not playing over there today. I've got an NBA show
so
at
anything
9.
You have, please let us know.
St. Louis has positive leverage, and they're the third most likely top stack percentage that exists over on the FanDuel slate. So that really stands out. And Cincinnati, less of a must. You get softer pricing on FanDuel. I think that kind of when you get a positive leverage team like St. Louis, they're going to take massive priority for me over a Cincinnati team. Cincinnati, it's more of a value where you're playing two pitchers, where the pricing is a little bit sharper outside of like a few spots like Atlanta and such. You have pretty tight pricing on DK day in, day out. So Cincinnati, far less of a priority. You can still land on them over on FanDuel, but it's more of a DK specific play. Whereas St. Louis, definitely a team that's more priority based for me on FanDuel.
Yeah, and look, you can just join and be part of the Awesemo Plus.
What a great
Awesemo Plus Platinum community. $29.95 a week. We have MLB Express packages. And then you don't have to go, yo, Lindquist. Give me the right? We'll answer. But I'm just saying, Eric.
I wanted to mix it in because,
I know.
And
we mentioned that a lot.
Discrimination here, squirrel.
There you go. All right, bro. I
always got to mix in some Outcast. I've used that one in recent weeks, though. I gotta probably stop that one.
Well, your Outcast is probably newer than my Outcast, so. Jordan's moving the hat. We got to keep it moving. I
okay,
can
see
it, the frustration. Okay. All right, let's look at the offense then.
Yeah, let's go.
Well, you didn't even hit the pitchers because we had to hit FanDuel. So let's hit the pitchers here.
We already talked Cincinnati and St. Louis.
We're in Houston now.
Toronto, we're in Houston. Cool. Yes. Moving along. Let's do that. Lurie Garcia
matchup
season.
Is not great.
Luis Garcia season. I said Lurie Garcia. He's literally batting second for the White Sox. Whatever.
Garcia's a lot.
Yeah, Luis Garcia season. This is a guy. So, I mean, if you want to take a stand on certain players on the slate from a pitching perspective, Luis Garcia against a Toronto Blue Jays lineup, that is always going to be a spot where you have some pause. You have some great pause going up against Toronto. Just like I think on the other side of this one, Kikuchi going up against Houston. My Lord, this is not a good spot for either pitcher whatsoever. But I still think Luis Garcia has enough that you can take some shots. 21.1% K percentage. He was around 26.4% last season. He's an extreme fly ball pitcher, mid-90s fastball. We're looking at the off-speed offerings, decent enough whip percentages. Nothing off the charts, though. The curveball really doesn't generate any swings and misses in the early going of the season. but he's been getting around a 36.2% whip percentage going back to last year. That is going to have some positive regression off this 14.3%. I think it's pretty easy to see where some more strikeouts are going to be available for him. He's just unowned. He's a pitcher that's unowned on a 9-game slate where there's not extreme elite pitching options here. McClanahan I view as elite. Garrett Cole I viewed as elite and maybe could be again. Positive regression might be in store. Who knows? But we've talked about that one ad nauseum. I just think he's an all right pitcher to kind of mix into 150. If I'm making one lineup or even at a 3-max setting, I find it very hard to believe I'm going to land on Luis Garcia. But my God, he makes a guy that it's not that hard to see a path up against a Toronto lineup that at the same time, they have tons of power, lots of strikeouts, almost the exact same situation we talked about with Boston.
Love that. All right. Yeah, exactly. When we have a similar situation that you could draw back on. I think we can keep
fade Garcia. Here's the thing. You could totally fade Garcia, but he's completely unowned. I mean, that's 9K. The thing. He's 4.1%. He's 9K. Right. Anybody who's 9K going up against Toronto is not going to be popular. It really doesn't matter who they are to a certain extent. You're going to have guys like a Verlander. It would still, if you had a 10K Verlander in this spot, I think he would actually be popular because we're talking about like elite K percentage. But for the most part, people going up against Toronto are not going to be popular. That's going to make, when a good pitcher's on the mound there, Toronto less popular than they should be. And it's going to make the pitcher less popular than they should be. We've seen it a number of times in the first few weeks of this season. It's only going to continue. So roster a little bit over Luis Garcia. And then looking at the top stacks percentage, Toronto, flat leverage, sign me up for that every single time.
Let's keep it moving to Minnesota here. Giolito.
Last thing, Houston. Oh, yeah. Sorry. Going up against Kikuchi. You want all the Houston bats. Houston bats are lovely. I am way over on Houston bats every single time. I have no worries about Kikuchi. I will take all the left-handed bats against him as well. Gives up tons of contact here. This is just, he's not a good pitcher. Plus, the one thing he has been able to do in previous years is miss bats. So far in the early going of this season, only a 13.5% K percentage. Oh boy, he is in for a long day. I think Houston might be my favorite stack. They've been my favorite stack a lot of days compared to ownership, but they specifically are today.
Yeah, I think cost, but they're not even the most expensive by a little bit. Yeah, that's surprising. I'm surprised Houston isn't catching more ownership that we have projected overall based on the matchup and the fact that, yeah, you're spending, but there are at least 4 or 5 other teams that you're spending more for their stacks. So that's a little surprising, I think, on the surface.
Yep.
They're positively leveraged, which is a good thing as well. To
Always.
Eric's point.
Yeah. Right. Alvarez, give me all the Alvarez leading off Jeremy Pena, bet him for rookie of the year at the absolute, I guess he said to do it, Greg Ehrenberg. And I think that's a great bet of, I think it was like plus 850 when I got it in Arizona. So you want to be checking out some Jeremy Pena in your life. And Jordan Alvarez, sub 5%. Gurriel, he hasn't been good early going, but a righty there. And Kyle Tucker, I will always roster tons of. I love him so much.
A reminder here as we move to Minnesota, Andrew Martinez and others, make sure you hit that notification bell so you're not straggling, because we want you here ahead of time. We want you part of that strong group of folks who are hanging, waiting to see what gear Eric Lindquist or what hat Eric Lindquist has on today. That's why we want you here ahead of time. Minnesota. Now, this game is not at least projected to be super high from run totals on either side of it. You do have some pitching opportunities, though. Chris Archer is going to be that cheaper option and actually gets a lot of value because his ownership doesn't necessarily dwarf the top 2 pitcher that we have. And then it's Giolito, who you're just spending up. I mean, really, that's the biggest deterrent, it looks like, is that you're just spending up for him.
Yeah. This is a fantastic spot to just play all the bats. I mean, what is this? The highest total on the board at 9.5, wind blowing out Wrigley. We've seen this movie before. There's some rain risk here. I know that it's supposed to rain.
No. Let me just jump in real quick.
Chicago and Pittsburgh. Sorry. I was looking
Chicago
at the wrong spot.
And Minnesota.
Oh, okay.
You got Patrick the White Sox Beverly on the brain. You're thinking
I heard Chicago, and then you said that one, and I was just jumping into Chicago. I was going to let it go, but I saw Jordan's face. Yeah.
Like, wait, stop him.
Doesn't matter. We're going to move on. We're going to be flying. Chris Archer.
We're going to fly.
Chris Archer's fine. Chris Archer's fine for this kind of a slate, 6,100. He's going a little bit over-owned, but he kind of falls in that bucket of all the mid-6K guys. Yeah. We know the pedigree that's existed before. He's given up hard hits here in recent years. This is just one spot where it's very easy to see. Chris Archer, could he have success? Sure. But this is a very potent White Sox lineup, division rival that will be a problem this season. You have guys like Abreu, Robert, even Andrew Vaughn has been murdering the baseball, 56.7% hard hit percentage, 728. We see him in the lineup. That's problematic. Gavin Sheets has been a stud. He gives you some value. Tim Anderson, 586, expecting slugging. I like the White Sox bats going up against Chris Archer at the same time. That'll get to a little bit of Chris Archer, but not a guy I want to go to overweight to. As far as the Twins on the other side, I really do like the Twins. I think that they're a team that you're just going to want to stack up more than normal whenever there's going to be positive leverage. There's obviously positive leverage in this spot. Yep. That makes them stand out. You get Buxton back in that lineup, like becomes a lot better for this offense to operate. So Minnesota, just fine by me.
The most impressive part about you speeding through all of that was that it was one consistent thought. We need to do like a who does it better. Lindquist speeding through that piece of analysis or the Micro Machines guy. Remember him?
No.
Jesus. All right, let's keep it.
I'm a failure.
Well, yeah, but you don't have to remind us.
Pay attention. I heard Chicago, and then I started addressing the Chicago
the whole
Cubs
show's
as
derailed
opposed to the White Sox.
Lucas
Giolito's not going to pitch that far. Don't roster.
I'm out. Chicago, Brubaker, Justin Steele.
Oh, you're going to be okay. It's so hard being Eytan.
It is. It's very difficult, man. I got a 10-month-old kid who shits and throws up on everything. All right.
Yeah, it's a problem.
It is. You think it's a problem with the dog. Just give it a year or two. All right. Chicago. Now, this is your time. This is your moment. You wanted the Cubs. Take the Cubs. They're all yours.
Yeah, why are they going so underowned? I don't know. There's there's flat leverage, 10.8% ownership share, 10.6% top stack percentage. But this is the team that if there's going to be flat leverage in this hitting environment, winds blowing out 15 miles an hour in Wrigley. And again, we've seen this movie before, even bad offenses, similar to Coors Field. You just have bad offenses that can succeed there. The other big thing is that Wrigley, it just becomes like a home run derby. So we have an opportunity with some power, as bad as what the Pittsburgh lineup is. You have Brian Hayes, Michael Chavez, Brian Reynolds going up against Justin Steele here, who could be a decent enough pitcher long-term. But my God, this is not going to be a good spot for either pitcher. I like both offenses. I think getting to both offenses here makes a lot of sense. I don't know why they're as underowned as what they are. I mean, the fact that there's flat leverage with the top stacks tool for both of them is kind of blowing my mind, because it just seems like a spot where we've seen the kind of run opportunity that exists. I mean, obviously it was all from one side, the Cubs side here the other night, but I just look at this team, both of these teams as having enough power to be very, very viable in this spot.
There's a little value for Brubaker, man.
Okay, I know. I already talked about the fact that you could probably get to some of it. 22% K percentage here now in the early going of this season. Justin Steele a little worse at 19.2%. I think Justin Steele's the better pitcher between the two long-term. I mean, shit, you didn't have Brubaker make his debut until he was 27 years old. That's something that Greg Ehrenberg talks about all the time. Probably not that good of a pitcher. 7.3 ERA this season, 4.35 expected ERA though. So there's positive regression possibly in store. It's just a really bad environment. It's a game that I think it's going to have a lot more long balls in it. So same thing, Justin Steele can kind of go through the exact same scenario. Didn't make his debut till he was 26. He's 27 here now, 4.5 ERA, 3.68 expected ERA. So he's been performing a little bit better than his surface numbers. So Justin Steele, I probably have no interest to get to as a pitcher, but I'm going to be stacking up Pittsburgh way above this 7.8% that we currently have.
Yeah, both teams pretty much for lack of, or for all intents and purposes, coming in at flat leverage for being two of the four highest projected stack teams we have, at least on DK. All right, so from there, Eric Lindquist, we wind down our final six in LA, and the Baltimore Orioles, Angels, Ellis, Jose Suarez on the mound. Any interest? Let's start with whatever you can do with either of these pitchers.
Hang on one second.
I just moving into that later slate, by the way.
Refresh Cruncher here because we got lineups that came in, and then sometimes that just logs you out of the main deal. That's just fine. LA Angels, Baltimore. I mean, this is just like the Baltimore lineup is so egregiously bad, and Suarez is definitely not that good at this point in his career, Jose Suarez. And this is just a classic. Like, all right, I understand Baltimore is not a good offense, but Jose Suarez might be so bad, and from the left side, and you get all these righties, these power righties, guys that had power once upon a time when the fences were shorter there in Camden. This is in LA. I think it's warm enough outside, and I just step outside here for a second. Down in Anaheim, it's about 35, 45 minutes away from me. it's about the exact same temperature that it'll be here. I think it's an all right spot to get to with some of these righties. Baltimore side, I have no Suarez interest whatsoever here. Kind of the quick way of saying it. I mean, as bad as the Baltimore offense is, Jose Suarez is just terrible.
All right, well, let's look at the offense there. I mean, clearly with the projected lineup here up top with the Angels, there's going to be an opportunity to attack Chris Ellis.
Yeah, Chris Ellis is no good at throwing of the baseballs. So same thing that you're looking at. He's been decent enough. Only a 6.7% hard hit percentage here in the early going of this season. That's going to have regression, 52.4% over the course of last year, 19% K percentage. He's not striking guys out. Maybe he limits hard contact here, but let's just say that Mike Trout, Shohei Ohtani are pretty good at baseball. And so it's pretty clear cut to see that every single night. You saw Brandon Marsh go long yesterday. You're going to have some of these other outfield options, him, Adele, whomever else, that are good mix and match options. The stack is generally cheaper when you're obviously putting Trout and Shohei Ohtani together. If you can just go one of them, you have an opportunity to kind of mix it up. But then you're definitely reducing a lot of your upsides. So I think you can kind of involve them in with Rendon, Marsh. Everybody makes sense going up against anybody that has a Baltimore hat throwing baseballs.
All right, brother. So as we move deeper into this afternoon slate here, we can look at this next game, and we're in Oakland. Rangers, A's, Garrett Richards, Cole Irvin, and really from a stack standpoint, there may be more opportunity from the arm standpoint.
For which game? Sorry, it's just coming up here. Don't give me the look. I know I'm getting the look.
Oh no, I'm not giving you the look. Am I?
Okay.
No, I was giving. Jordan gives you the look.
Jordan always gives me the look. Right? It's fine. I have 10 minutes. I will get 10 minutes.
I have no doubt you will.
I can do this.
No, but
Texas and Oakland.
I'm just saying 10 minutes for the people that say, "Oh, you guys are on ADD and all this other stuff." Just so that we could slide in there. That's all. All right. So Richards,
slide to the left.
Cole Irvin,
slide to the right. 2 hops this time.
There's not much here, right?
Yeah, there kind of is. Again, this is
from
specifically looking at like the 5-game slate that we have here for DK. It just makes sense this afternoon slate. There's going to be some pretty clear-cut guys to get to. Clayton Kershaw, Robbie Ray, guys of that nature. Cole Irvin, he's going to go a little bit over-owned. He's going to be a guy that I think people have to get to in order to pay up for bats, and you definitely have some bats between the Dodgers offense, between the Angels offense. I like Baltimore a little bit more than I maybe should as I'm kind of going through some of these numbers. But regardless, I think this afternoon slate is pretty clear cut that the Angels are going to be the most popular team. And so any other team that you go to, you're basically kind of disregarding a ton of negative leverage. And I do expect this Texas offense to be all right at the top of the order. It looks like there's some positive leverage going their direction. 9.6% top stack percentage on this 5-gamer. I'm all right getting to some of those guys in this spot. But Oakland, this is just an offense. Yeah, they're positively leveraged here, but I'm just never that enthused rostering anybody in any spot. And at the same time, I'm very aware that Richards, oh boy, he is a problem. But I think that I'm more inclined to just not stack up on the other side of this one with Oakland. I'll definitely have some Sean Murphy. I'll definitely have some mix and match options there, but Sheldon Neuse, maybe if he's batting up high in that order, Seth Brown, but not the most intriguing offense on the other side going up against Garrett Richards, who has been a good pitcher at times. I mean, we've seen some major regression for him here. Been a guy who can get hard hit, but there aren't enough bats on the Oakland side that I want to go crazy with it.
Yeah, and that's a good point too, just because if anybody looks immediately and says, "Oh, it's a stack, it's positively leveraged," it's not always the case in which you want to race to that team, that stack, or even if it's a smaller stack. All right, Dodgers in San Diego, another pitching matchup here with Kershaw and Manaea. So let's attack that first and then talk about these offenses kind of secondary, because you mentioned with LA, the Angels up there at the top, getting to the Dodgers or really anybody else, you're going to take away from that negative leverage of LA. Actually, maybe the Dodgers stack would be the best place to start here, simply because of how positively leveraged they are and how little ownership they have on this slate. Pardon me.
Yeah, I mean, that's just the product of an expensive offense going up against a decent enough pitcher. And this is same situation we saw yesterday with Yu Darvish. yeah, Yu Darvish pitched great, and you're going to have times where the pitcher wins out, but the offense just goes neglected. And this is an offense that's top in baseball for me. If you had to pick one lineup to rule them all on a neutral field, neutral conditions, I'd pick the Dodgers offense. And so going up against Sean Manaea is getting quite a bit of ownership, 20% compared to what you would think on a 5-game slate against the Dodgers. But that's because Sean Manaea has shown some stuff here in the early goings of this season. There are enough strikeouts now in this Dodgers lineup. They do not strike out a lot at all. Let me just put it that way. But Mookie Betts has been north of 25%. Trey Turner's north of 25%. Chris Taylor's always struck out. And Cody Bellinger, 32.1%. So half the lineup, sub 20%. Max Muncy, Turner, Smith, Freeman, all those guys. Gavin Lux, not striking out at all this season. What a stud he's been in the early going of this year, even batting ninth. But Dodgers are a ridiculous offense. Sean Manaea, he's shown some real stuff here this early going, 26.8% K percentage, 330 expected slugging. So yeah, I understand why he's getting some rostership, but man, it's a very, very tough spot. Going to probably be a spot where I just get to a little bit of both sides.
Yeah, and makes sense there. So we'll move on, right? With Kershaw
well? San Diego on the other side of this one, it's Clayton Kershaw. Yeah, Clayton Kershaw's been a monster. He's going to be the most popular pitcher on this slate. He should be the most popular pitcher. Actually, Robbie Ray will be a little bit more popular over on DK because he's 9K. But Clayton Kershaw, 10-4 going against San Diego. There's really no stacking interest I have whatsoever for Kershaw here. If I want a one-off Machado, I think that's going to kind of be what most people do and just move on from the rest of this team. I am willing to mix in some Trent Grisham. This guy is hitting the ball too hard. Or not Trent Grisham, sorry. Jurickson Profar. That was the guy that I had circled. Jurickson Profar has had some really great StatCast numbers here in the early going of this season. 576 expected slugging, not striking out, and getting walked at a high clip. Seeing the ball well, seems to be hitting it pretty darn hard, more than I would expect. So I'm going to mix him in tournaments, but nothing from San Diego bats that's going to be a priority.
McGill, Bumgarner, those are your two pitchers in this Mets-Arizona game out west. So you're going to have some costs with both of them. The ownership, though, if you wanted to maneuver here, might be Bumgarner as far as the better value is concerned, although McGill actually has some pretty good value as well. Neither one of them are catching much ownership.
Way too much chatter on the clock. What are we talking about? We're going to get
everything
in
for you and I to do a jukebox show. We can't sit there and just go information. Give us 2 hours. I'll do a 2-hour show with you. Jordan can sub out halfway through and let Awesemo do it.
Yeah, I think I've done a pretty good job bringing it full circle, but I get it. It's early. But first show that I've done before 7 a.m. period. So you're going to be okay. You're going to be okay. Love Machado as a one-off. Yeah, that's going to be the popular way to do it. Sean V, good to see you. But looking at the pitchers here in this one, McGill, me and my Tyler McGill, he feels like an all right pitcher to be getting to on this slate. 11% ownership is too low for this good of a pitcher against Arizona. I expect that that's going to come up a little bit here because he's just much better than this Arizona offense is on the other side. So Tyler McGill, if he's going to just be 11%, give me more than that.
All right. So on the offense, anything you want to talk about with where you're stacking the Mets and Arizona before we move to Seattle?
Yeah, I'm going to stack the Mets a lot.
The Mets, they have a high projection here.
High projection. They're going to be tough to get to when you have Lindor, Marte, as expensive as they are, and you want to play Kershaw on the other side. Yeah, basically sacrifices are going to have to be made, but it's worth it with this Mets offense. They have shown that they are for real. They have some real bats sitting in the heart of this order. So I feel pretty confident that that pretty much anybody is stackable against Madison Bumgarner as it is, let alone a really, really good offense. Madison Bumgarner, 15.8% K percentage, 17.5% walk rate. You get a guy like Marte and Lindor out there, they're going to be running amok. I feel pretty confident that the Mets, my highest owned stack for this afternoon slate.
Let's look at Kansas City. Last game in this one here before the night game. Kansas City, Seattle. And you talk about Robbie Ray, he's getting everything. Like 63% of the field going with Robbie Ray, we have projected on DK. The flip side of that, of course, is nobody getting to Carlos Hernandez for obvious reasons.
Yeah, it's Carlos Hernandez, and we don't need to do that.
Right.
Like, just don't.
I don't need to pile on Hernandez, poor guy.
He's very bad. He's very, very bad. Well, I'll also say that 69, so 68 and 63 pitches, he's probably not going to go outside of 70, but part of that is he's just getting blasted. Doesn't strike out anybody. One strikeout for the season. Congratulations. You've won a prize for your one strikeout. He's not good. And we're going to have some interest in Seattle bats on the other side of it. I'm worried that Seattle is going to end up being really, really popular eventually. But right now there's ownership share, 4.5% leverage to go their direction. That's the most positive leverage, even more so than the Dodgers. You get some cheaper bats than you have on the Dodgers side for sure as well. So maybe a team I stack up a little bit more if that ownership is going to maintain against Hernandez. But Robbie Ray as a pitcher, my God, there's really not a whole lot I can say. This Kansas City offense is got some strikeouts available to you. That's for sure. Not in Whit Merrifield, not in Nicky Lopez, not in Carlos Santana, but everybody else. We've got Sal Perez, 21.6%, Hunter Dozier, Bobby Witt, Alberto Mondesi. All the guys on the bottom half of the lineup are basically auto Ks. So if you can mix up a couple on the top end, I mean, he's the best, most clear-cut guy for positive regression. I expect for his numbers not to mirror 32.1% K percentage and limited hard contact, but at the same time that I love Robbie Ray, hard to not stack up against a 60% owned pitcher who's shown the ability to give up hard contact over the course of his entire career. Last year was maybe an outlier. We shall see. But it's basically a lot of blue on the screen previous to 2021 in terms of Zex Wobicon, 462, 432. We're talking really, really high numbers there. So I'm all right stacking up against him with the KC side too.
Yeah, 93 likes, 381 watching. We have this last game that Eric's going to breeze through with both Lindquist and Klein. Got up early here for you. I just rolled out of bed, went downstairs. It's an easy day for me. But we should at least be at 100 thumbs up at the very least before we get the hell out of here. I mean, just to pay back Lindquist and Jordan for you. Eric and Klein. I like that better than Lindquist and Jordan.
I do too.
It sounds like a legit law firm I'd hire.
Well, that's probably we would not be good. You do not want us defending anything other than you.
Correct. And I have a lot of things you need to defend. All right, last game.
Twitter.
Take it away, man. We have to get out. We have a hard out.
Yeah.
So I mean, this game. We don't even have time for me to talk about my fills. It's just you.
Yeah. Well, shit. I mean, this is a showdown game. So Aaron Nola, you're going to roster him. Eric Lauer, you're going to roster him because it's a showdown. You should roster a lot of the pitchers here. If I had to isolate some bats, Aaron Nola, it's going to be hard for me to go crazy against anything. Yelich has been smoking the ball early on, 63.6% hard hit percentage, but it's never high in the air, 3.4 degree launch angle. That's kind of been a deal for him. We need to get some launch on it, my friend. But Rowdy Tellez is going to probably be my favorite Brewers one-off, 692 expected slugging. He's cheap for the showdown slate. Phillies on the other side, the much more intriguing offense going up against Lauer, softer throwing lefty. We've got Bohm that'll probably be in the lineup here, 616 expected slugging. You guys need him. This guy is a stud. Third base be damned. Play him.
I love the kid.
Everybody up and down this entire lineup. They're just a ridiculous offense. Castellanos, my favorite bat, going up against any lefty. He always is 618 expected slugging here in the early going of the season. Bryce Harper, never be worried on left with him. And Gene Segura will be leading off. He's been smoking the ball, 252.8% hard hit percentage. Pretty much the only guy that's been struggling here this early on in the season is Kyle Schwarber. Probably not going to be going his direction left on left. We'll even see if he's in the lineup. But obviously, the Philadelphia Phillies offense definitely stands out.
Love that. By the way, I went 2 hits for Tellez and 2 RBI for Castellanos.
Love it.
Yeah, man. Awesome. At Eric Lindquist, at Shander Show. We're only a minute late. See, think about that. Next time you criticize Lindquist for going off in these wild tangents or rants. Thanks to Jordan Klein, the NBA Deeper Time Strategy. We're going to get you ready. It's Lofty and Josh coming up next.